Okay, I think a strong distinction needs to be made between chemical extraction and mechanical extraction. Okay, there is a huge difference in the food processing, and one is much more dangerous than the other. All right, and how hard is it to say this food had some chemical extraction process done to it, all right? Or this food was entirely mechanically processed, all right? It's not that hard to make that statement, all right? You know how much the food industry would change in a positive light for preparing food if that was a required statement to make? It would be huge. It would be a revolution, all right? Because a lot of addictive chemicals put into our processed foods have to be chemically processed. MSG, you can't just mechanically process that with a centrifugal method or squishing it like you do. They use centrifugal methods for cane sugar, and then the extract is that molasses stuff. And that's fine. That's a chemical process, but they do have a mechanical process, but they do have a chemical process to that. Or olive oil, which is the first press is entirely mechanical, but then the next few presses after that they have to add solvents, and then that's your less than virgin oil. That's just an example. That's just one product, and they have to use solvents for it. Any processed food really needs to make it clear. And I'm not saying that water is, I think that it should be clear. Water is a solvent, but it's not a chemical solvent, okay? Make that distinction. Make that define that difference, all right? Anything beyond water, your alcohols, your just all those gases and stuff that they use to extract. Okay, sugar is a very good example. I just had some a cane stalk, a sugar cane. I just kind of cut it up and chewed on it a little bit, threw it in my water. It's such a mild sweetness in something, about, I don't know, that length or so from one finger to the next. A very mild sweetness, all right? And they have to use a lot of cane, all right? And they extract it in mass amounts to get you that super sweet, extra addictive type of food. You don't just squeeze the sugar out of the cane. You have to use a chemical extraction. And I don't think people understand what all is going on in the extraction methods to create these processed foods. There are a lot of extracts that go into processed foods, all right? And I'm just saying, make a distinction if any of these ingredients or a part of the recipe, or I would call them chemicals, are added, then you should have to say this had a chemical extraction process with, and you don't have to say exactly what had the chemical processing, just if anything had a chemical processing to it. The sugar, how is MSG made? It's got to be a chemical process. They extract MSG, the monosodium glutamate, from salt? That's incredible. The chemists are so good at extracting things chemically by using certain methods. You add this solvent, and then you got to add this other thing to be able to bind things together and whatnot. And we're so dependent on that stuff. I mean, it's crazy. It just wrecks our health in terrible ways. I'm really impressed with how wheat is broken down into 3 parts. That little seed is broken down into 3 parts. And that sounds like it's entirely mechanical, which is impressive. If we could have stuck with that, somehow we've really gone crazy with going beyond just mechanical processing and going into chemical. Things have to be labeled better to reflect that.